Vapor face! What's up, Vape Fam? Sorteal, Vaporworks Lab, Flavor House Feature Episode 4. Now, when I initially thought up this whole video series, it was very much inspired by what Develop did when they did their top 10 of different flavor houses. But I wanted to focus more on either smaller flavor houses or flavoring companies that you didn't see used quite as often in recipes on, say, ELR or all the flavors as you would some of the bigger flavoring companies. And as such, I knew I wanted to save this company for last. It was kind of the save the best for last idea, but I may actually revisit this concept down the road and do another 4 or 5 flavoring companies that not necessarily small, but that you don't see used in e-liquid recipes quite as often as some of the bigger ones out there. But what we're talking about today, if the green light in the background did not give it away, is VSO. And VSO is one of those companies that if you're a vapor, even if you're not into DIY, you should be cheering this company on, trying to support them in any way that you can, because they are a flavoring company that is made by one of our own. Vaping Swag is the creator, the manufacturer, the bottler, labeler, shipper, along with his wife, of VSO. So it is a 2-person operation. And I kind of stumbled upon VSO a little late in the game. It was probably early 2021 when I had heard enough about VSO that I decided to try some of their flavorings. And I'm very glad that I did, because they're even more so than, say, Jungle Flavors or Perillum. Every flavor that I've tried of VSO has been good, and not just good, but great or fucking amazing. He said he uses a natural extraction process for his flavorings. It's an ethanol extraction, and then he suspends that extraction in a PG solution. So almost everything that you get from VSO is going to be extremely authentic, which is a good thing, honestly. If you're looking for candied stuff, VSO may not be the company you want to go for, but for the most part, any flavoring that you could want that VSO offers is going to be amazing. Now, considering I kind of came upon VSO a little late in the game, and I didn't know a whole lot about the company, I decided to reach out to Swaggy through the VSO site and kind of find out more about him and the company. So I sent him an email saying, hey, I'm doing this series of videos on smaller flavoring houses. I wonder if you could answer a few questions for me. And then I listed out my questions. Well, he sent me an email back where he answered pretty much every single question I had and then some. He actually said that he kind of had the DIY spirit instilled in him from an early age through his grandfather. As he said, it's kind of the idea of, why would I pay somebody for something that I can make myself? So he said he was a 4-pack a day smoker, but he actually grew, cured, and rolled his own tobacco. Now, my family back in the day were all pretty much tobacco farmers. So I have planted, pulled, stripped, dried tobacco before, and that is rough fucking work. So mad props to Swaggy for that one. But he said when he wanted to quit and he got into vaping, the transition into DIY e-liquid making was just kind of natural for him. And he said that he and his wife actually went out one time for their anniversary, and they had this dessert that they both really loved, and he knew he wanted to try and make an e-liquid that mimicked that dessert. But when he was trying different blueberry flavors, he was extremely disappointed by all of them. And he said he had already, done some natural extraction, so he decided to just try a blueberry extraction. And when he did, it kind of gave him the whole concept of VSO. So then he just started making flavorings through this natural extraction process. And for one, the kind of product that he gets out of it is very authentic. Now, it may throw some people off because in general, VSO flavors, you have to use a little bit higher, I've noticed. The blueberry, which I believe was his very first offering, you have to use high like you would a liquid barn flavor. So you're talking 6-7%. But he also came out with a blueberry version 2 that you could use more around 2 or 3, but 2% is pretty much the base of what you want to use most VSO flavors at. So 2% or more is kind of the range you're looking at. So don't think you're going to be using most of these at under 1% or in the 1% range. All of these you're going to have to use a little bit more of, but the end result is well worth using more flavoring for. So when I got into trying out some VSO flavors, I really wanted to find a huckleberry. Every huckleberry flavor that I'd ever tried, I was not a big fan of. They didn't taste like huckleberry to me, and they either had too much of an artificial note to them or just too dark, just plain dark, and nothing really else. They just tasted like a generic dark berry to me. But then when I tried VSO's huckleberry, it changed huckleberry in my mixing. Now I use huckleberry so much more. And if I do, VSO huckleberry is the only one that I use. I normally use this around 2 to 3% in a mix. If you were going to single flavor, I would say probably 5, somewhere around there. Also, in the previous video, I was talking about Perillum's raspberry candy or sour raspberry candy, and they're just straight raspberry, which is more of an artificial raspberry. And I said, as far as authentic raspberries, I would talk about that in the next episode, and that is VSO's red raspberry. Now, these are the labeling and packaging that VSO comes in. I love these bottles as well. I don't know where Swaggy is kind of sourcing these from, but these are absolutely great bottles. And I love the labeling too, that it's just a picture of whatever it is, because that is exactly what it's going to taste like. Now, one of the probably most popular VSO flavors, and it's the one I see most often used in recipes, is strawberry. VSO strawberry is phenomenal. He also makes a raw version of this, which is basically just the extracted flavoring. It is not suspended in a PG solution, so you have to dilute it yourself, so you can make it as weak or as strong a dilution as you want. But definitely be careful when you're kind of working with raw flavorings, because you don't really know how to dilute very well. You can kind of waste a lot of the flavor because you either underpower it or way overpower it. So make sure you kind of educate yourself about dilution before you start messing with any of the VSO raws. But once you get it down, they are definitely worth picking up. A big flavor that I always use, I love cranberry. I'm probably the weirdest person in the world when it comes to cranberry. When fall comes, my wife kind of cringes because she knows I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to buy several giant bags of cranberries. I'm going to freeze some of them. The rest of them, I'm not going to make cranberry jam or anything like that out of them, cranberry sauce, nothing like that. I put them in a bowl, wash them off, and eat them raw. I love cranberries. Most cranberry flavorings out there don't really taste like cranberry. They taste like cranberry from like Ocean Spray's cranberry juice. That's what they taste like. So it's cranberry with a ton of some other fruit juice mixed in there and some sugar. But VSO's cranberry is straight cranberry, and it tastes like you're eating a raw cranberry. So if that's not what you're looking for, you might want to be careful with this, or maybe mix it with a little bit of some type of strawberry or raspberry, or even an apple, because that kind of sweetness of the apple will sweeten up the cranberry as well. But for me, I like it just like this. I actually did a recipe that I released a modified version of it on all the flavors, and it's called Aurora Borealis. It's a mixed berry ice cream, but it initially started as a ice cream that only used berries that came from northern regions. So, and maybe not only, but were associated with northern regions. So it kind of had cloudberries or SSA's Scandinavian fruit that was in there. VSO's cranberry was in there. VSO huckleberry was in there. and I think I had a raspberry. I don't think it was red raspberry. I cannot remember which one it was, but it was all kind of berries that were definitely found in northern regions. But the huckleberry and the cranberry, especially the cranberry because it was pretty high in the mix, I loved it. I love that recipe. I still make the original recipe all the time, but it was not something that was probably mass appealing because the cranberry was so tart and so forward in the mix and a very natural cranberry. So if you didn't like eating raw cranberries, you probably were not going to like my kind of cranberry, cloudberry, huckleberry ice cream I came up with. So I changed the recipe around and made it more of just a general cloudberry, raspberry ice cream, which was still good, but I actually liked the original better, but it just wasn't something I thought would appeal to a lot of people. All right, I am a lemon and lime freak. When I started out mixing, most people when they start out mixing, at least people I've talked to, they tend to go overboard with creams. So they end up with just too many creams and not enough stuff to mix them with. So then they end up making a lot of just very cream specific recipes or just kind of mixing a ton of creams together and seeing what happens. I was that way with citrus, and I really wish I had had VSO lemon early on because I was kind of stuck with Italian lemon Sicily and juicy lemon from Capella, lemon Sicily from Flavor Art, although that one is very good, and a couple of other ones. I did not have my two favorite other than this one, which is Vape Train Sour Lemon and Flavor Express Lemon. But once I found this one right here, it is just the perfect raw, pure lemon. It tastes like you just took a bite out of a lemon. It is phenomenal. You can actually take this with like a lighter lemonade flavor. Like I kind of consider Flavora's lemonade to be a lighter lemonade flavor. It doesn't have any kind of bite to it. And it's just more of a sweet kind of, I don't know. It's a lemonade, but it's a very weak lemonade. But if you add VSO lemon to it, it will kick that lemonade up majorly. I actually make that quite often where it's just Flavora lemonade, this, and a little bit of sweetener. And that's pretty much it. I said lime as well. And VSO lime is, to me, probably the best lime out there, period. It really tastes like a lime wedge, like you just took a bite out of a lime wedge, or you used lime to kind of, season up something or even a drink, whatever your recipe is. It's going to taste like you're using actual lime juice. And that's really hard to find with lime. There's always some kind of chemical or sweetness, kind of an off note to limes. But VSO's is just straight lime juice is basically what it tastes like, and it works phenomenal in just about anything you throw it in. I love this flavor. All right, we've been talking about pretty much nothing but fruit flavors, and I really think that VSO absolutely shines in fruit flavors. They're all authentic tasting, so anything you want to make, if you're looking at it more like a recipe where you're cooking, VSO flavors are going to work perfect. Every time I've wanted to kind of mimic a recipe that I've made in real life to eat of food or dessert or whatever, VSO flavorings have been the ones that I could actually make that work in an e-liquid. But they also have a ton of other really good flavors as far as creams go. This one right here is their vanilla cream. And this stuff is amazing. To me, it just tastes like an actual real vanilla cream. It's pretty thick. It's very sweet. The mouth coating on it is just phenomenal. I love using this stuff in just about anything that I want a vanilla cream in. Now, this is one that I did not try until here recently, so I don't really have any recipes on all the flavors. I don't really use ELR, but I don't have any recipes up on all the flavors that use this, but I have developed about 4 or 5 recently that use this, and I really wish I had known about this before because it would have worked in some previous recipes way better than the vanilla creams I was using. So this stuff right here is awesome. If you like vanilla cream, definitely check out VSO's vanilla cream. Now, I mentioned in the Jungle Flavors episode about spearmint, and that Jungle Flavor spearmint was one of my favorite spearmints out there, if not my most favorite, because I didn't get quite as much of a bubblegum note off of it, and almost none until I pushed it up above like 1.5%. And that's definitely somewhat true, but here recently, and I'm talking very recently, within the last 2 weeks, I ordered and tried VSO spearmint. I had not tried any of their minty flavors because I'm not a big mint or coolant type of person, but I do really like spearmint, and I did not know they had a spearmint till I was looking through all of their flavors from A to Z, and then stumbled upon this and ordered this up. This is spearmint, no bubble gum at all, no matter where you put it. You could mix this up at 2% or 7%, and you're not going to get any type of bubblegum note to it. It's not going to taste like double mint. It's going to taste like actual real spearmint, and that's what I've been looking for all along. I've mentioned before that I have a lemon mint recipe that uses Vape Train's sour lemon, SSA sour lime, and Jungle Flavor spearmint. Well, I made some of that up with this, and it made the recipe probably 100 times better. It took any hint of a bubblegum note out of it, although Jungle Flavors doesn't have a lot of it. But trying this, I've kind of come to realize it has more of one than I thought it did. I think it just tasted so much less like bubblegum than any other spearmint that I'd ever tried until VSO spearmint. Now this stuff, I will be ordering a ton of this because I love this, and this is what I've been looking for in a spearmint since I started doing DIY, and have never been able to find it until now. So if you like spearmint, VSO spearmint is hands down the best spearmint out there, no contest. They also have a lot of nut flavors. Now, I actually ran out of their pecan. I love VSO pecan. It is just amazing. It's not really a butter pecan. It's just straight pecan. So if you want to add just a pecan nut note to something, VSO's pecan is definitely the one you should go for. Another nut type of flavor that I really wanted to use in a lot of stuff, but it doesn't seem to work in anything other than eggnogs, because most of these are not very good, is nutmeg. Now, VSO's nutmeg is amazing. You can use it in just about anything you want. I actually use this in a recipe that I do with One-on-One's Norwegian ring cake, and it works just absolutely outstanding. It's kind of like a nutmeg sprinkle over the icing for the cake, and it works phenomenal with that almond cake that Norwegian ring cake is. But any other nutmeg flavoring I've ever tried to use in that situation never worked. It never tasted good. It didn't taste like actual kind of, sprinkled over powdered nutmeg at all. But this does. This also works amazing in coffee recipes. So if you want to do up a coffee recipe that maybe has kind of a nutmeg creamer to it, this, along with Capella's French vanilla mixed together, is a perfect nutmeg vanilla cream. And it works with just about any coffee you want to throw it in. Now, VSO actually has, I think at last count, 143 or 144 offerings out there. Now, that does include some of their raw flavorings, but honestly, there's not a whole lot of those. So you're still probably talking about 140 to 138 flavor offerings from VSO. For a small two-person operation, that is phenomenal. That is just a phenomenal output. So if you're never tried VSO, or you're looking for something that is very authentic, you should definitely go check out VSO. They also have one-shots there. Their sport pudding is amazing, especially the vanilla one. They have, like I said, with the creams, they have a cream that's called Barbarian Cream, and it is absolutely phenomenal. That's another one that I've recently reordered because I've used it all. I really probably need to order 4 ounces of that shit because I throw it in everything anymore. But I really have not run into a VSO flavor that was not just amazing. Like I said, you have to use them a little bit higher than you would most other, but if you kind of look at them like you would liquid barn flavorings, it's really almost that kind of level of use, but not quite as high. Most of them you can use around 2% to 3% in mixes. But some, like I said, like the blueberry, you probably need to crank that up to more around 5 or 6% to really get it to work, maybe all the way up to 7 or 8% if you want it to be a primary note in your mix, or, you know, the star of your mix. If you're familiar with kind of the Flavor West Flavora white chocolate combo that everyone uses, if you use VSO white chocolate, you don't really need that combo. If you need a creamier white chocolate, use VSO white chocolate with Wonder Flavors. I think it's white chocolate gooey or something like that. I can't remember what the actual name of it is. But those two paired together make a perfect creamy white chocolate. I actually updated, well, I didn't update it on all the flavors yet, but just in my own personal mixing, updated my white chocolate overdose custard to take out the Flavor West Flavora white chocolate combo and just stick VSO white chocolate in there mixed with the Wonder Flavors white chocolate gooey or creamy, whatever it is. And it works so much better. Not that the Flavor West Flavora combo is bad, it's definitely not, but it's just the fact you have to use a combo to get that white chocolate perfect. Pretty much VSO already did that with their white chocolate. It's just amazing. If you like banana flavors, VSO has the most authentic banana flavor out there, hands down. Now, I always thought that Mullenberry soft banana would be really the only banana concentrate I would pretty much ever use, aside from a couple of banana split flavorings. But I don't use banana flavoring that often, but when I do want it, soft banana has always been the one that I went to because it tasted kind of the most authentic as far as a banana or banana puree to me. But once I tried VSO banana, all that changed. And so now if I use banana, it's almost always VSO. If I want more of a punchy banana flavor, it's VSO and soft banana mixed together. And that works phenomenally, especially if you want something a little more, say, a banana cream or something like that. The Mullenberry soft banana kind of, I guess, softens up VSO banana enough to kind of make it a cream yourself, which I think is extremely interesting. But overall, every VSO flavor for the most part is good. It really blows my mind that this is a 2-person operation creating some of the most amazing flavors out there. The only hang up I can really see to VSO flavorings is for some people, you almost have to get readjusted to, say, theory crafting a recipe because you have to use most VSO flavors a little bit higher. But it's not like, say, Liquid Barn, where if you're using a Liquid Barn flavor, generally you're going to pump it up to 6, 7, something along those lines. Really, VSO Blueberry is the only one I can think of that you would really have to go that high, just as, you know, a primary note in your recipe. For the most part, most VSO flavors, you just kind of want to start at, say, 1.5% to 2%. Don't start any lower than that and kind of work your way up until you hit the percentage that you find works best for whatever you're mixing, whatever your recipe is, whatever your profile is. But overall, that's really not that big of a deal. It does take a little bit of testing, and maybe that's a hiccup for some people, but I found that it took very little time for me to get adjusted to working with VSO flavors. If I knew I was going to have a VSO flavor in my mix, it was pretty quick that I knew about what percentage I needed the individual flavors from VSO at. It really doesn't take that long to get adjusted. Now, if you're unfamiliar with VSO flavors, you should definitely pick some up. Go over to their website. It's vsoflavors.com and check out all the offerings that they have. And like I said, it's a ton of them. It's 140 some odd offerings that are out there from VSO. Really don't know how Swaggy does it, but the website is actually laid out pretty darn good. I do like how they kind of mix it up between what's on sale, fan favorites, what they recommend, what's new, and bestsellers. So it's easy to kind of find what you're looking for as far as when you're on the site. You can also search for individual flavors, and they have a whole thing up here where you can look at it by release date, which I think is cool. So you look at 2017, the initial offerings were blueberry, strawberry, apple, and grape. Apple is actually another one that I really should probably talk about, just because when you think about Apple in DIY, Fuji Apple kind of rules the conversation. It's either Fuji Apple or some type of bakery or cooked apple. So like an apple filling, or like Perillam's country apple. And you don't see a whole lot of good apple flavorings for any other type of apple besides cooked or Fuji. VSO's apple to me is more like a Honeycrisp or a Macintosh apple. It is very crisp, sweet, but also a little bit tart, and it is just an amazing apple flavor. So if you need an apple that's not a Fuji apple, definitely give VSO's apple a try. Also, their grape tastes like actual fucking grapes. I don't like any grape flavoring unless it's very artificial. Wonder Flavors has a sweet and sour purple drink flavor that I like, but other than that, I'm not huge on grapes except for VSO's grape. Now, for the most part, if I'm going to use VSO's grape, it's probably going to be in like a fruit mixture. I actually have a fruit cocktail recipe that I use VSO grape in, because no other grape would work with it. If you're looking for an authentic grape of any type, and it's not a wine recipe, because there's plenty of those out there, definitely give VSO's grape a try, because it really should get more attention, I think, than it does, because grape flavor sucks so bad, and VSO's grape is so good. Now you can go down here and look, and kind of goes by release date on when they released everything. And then it also has future releases. If you go all the way to the bottom here, it has champagnes coming out here pretty soon. Also black licorice, crisp citrus soda, and orange. I'm actually pretty pumped for orange, so definitely be waiting for that. And the crisp citrus soda, because the only kind of citrus soda flavoring that I like is from Wonder Flavors. So I would love to have a second option in the arsenal. Definitely go check out VSOflavors.com. Pick up some VSO flavors. You will not be disappointed. Just remember, you need to use them a little bit higher. Not Liquid Barn high, but just a little bit higher. Now, overall, VSO is kind of one of those companies that they're definitely small. It's a two-person operation, but they're not small on offerings. They have a ton of offerings, actually. And I don't think people realize that they have some offerings that you wouldn't even think of. They have a cheese, a vermouth, a bacon offering. So they have a lot of interesting flavors just to play around with, if nothing else. But they also have a ton of offerings out there that are just extremely good. They have a cream cheese, and that's one that I've been looking for particular recipes that I've never really been able to find. I've always had to use some type of lighter cheesecake, or maybe something like FA's Cheesecake Olympic, because every other actual cream cheese flavor that I can find is terrible. But VSO's cream cheese is amazing. So go over to VSO, check them out, pick up some flavors, vape on, and I will catch you guys in the next one.